Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Football Friday Live Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast, powered by gamblersWORLD.net, where you got me, Mr. Victor King, 11 other handicappers, ready to make you some money. NFL Week 1 has arrived. Listen, before I get to Victor and Marcus, he's flying. He's out in the field gathering information for the show. So he'll be in a little later. You know how it is. With Mark, the guy, he could be on ESPN for all I know. That guy's got a million things going on. We have our early bird NFL go get it $5.99. We did have a game last night. I don't know. Call me crazy. I'm sure me and Victor will talk about that and how it's rigged. It's rigged all over Twitter. We'll talk about rigged NFL in a second. But get that early bird special, $5.99. 3 7:38 packages, guaranteed. No better time to try out a weekend pass than on a Friday through a Monday or Saturday through a Monday with NFL and college football to give somebody a test ride. And it's guaranteed. We show you a profit or you're credited back. And you can run it back again if we don't show you a profit. But something tells me that the crew we have on gamblersWORLD.net, we're going to make you money over 3 days in NFL and college football. And in this case, it was really 5 days. It was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Two things to do. Like button, hit it. Share, subscribe, get everybody in here. Our Football Friday show. It usually starts a little slow with the comments because it starts coming on people's feeds. They come in here, which is fine. It gives us time to talk about the picks we're going to go over this weekend. But go ahead, hit that like button. And if you go to gamblersWORLD.net, our progressive pick'em contest is up. We tweeted out. I tweeted up at least. I see it. I always retweet it out. It's a pool. You're guaranteed to win $1,800 max prize. I think it's a $1,000 guaranteed winner. It's a pick 'em. It costs you nothing. It's free. It's I don't know. It's free money, folks. The description is below. But listen, we went really late last week, so let's just start jumping into the games. I got Victor King with me today. Mark will be joining us in a bit. Victor, I'm going to dabble into maybe a little last week's college football or this week's college football, wherever you want to go with last night. But first, say hello. Let the people know who you are. Like they don't know who you are. But.
Thank you, Sean, very, very much. Last week, we were fortunate to cash that over in the college football game between Miami and the Florida Gators by a couple of points. And we want to thank everybody who joined us for that particular play. We'll be talking about another Miami team here in a little bit. That would be the Miami Dolphins. Of course, as you mentioned, we're already one game deep into the NFL season, a toe-tapping toenail away from the Baltimore Ravens winning that game last night if they would have got the 2-point conversion afterwards. Very, very exciting. I know when Mark comes on a little bit later, he may say something about the fact that it statistically was probably a phony win for the Chiefs because the Ravens – man, they out-yarded them by over 100 total offensive yards in the game. And, Mark might have something to say about that. But, Sean, if you ask me, this might be the last thing the rest of the NFL wants to hear. And this Chiefs team could actually be better than last year's version. That's for sure. And, again, that was clear again last night. You've got this adaptability that Andy Reid and his coaching staff have. They're basically hallmarks of his entire career. You had an almost flawless performance from Patrick Mahomes, aside from a tipped interception that was not his fault. He was, I believe, 20 for 28 for 291 in the game. You've got the development of Rashid Rice as a wide receiver, Hollywood Brown when he gets healthy. Of course, the all-rookie wide receiver from Texas, Xavier Worthy, with 2 touchdowns in the game. You got the continued dominance of the Kansas City defense. And we talked about this in our podcast. KC Detroit, that's my Super Bowl matchup. This Kansas City Chiefs team, and we just said it in the first sentence, they could be scary because they could be better than they were even last year.
Listen, I'm going to go with Andy Reid for starters, what you said. He got a lot of flack in Philly, can't win. Mahomes probably has a lot to do with it. You get a guy like Mahomes in there. But the fact that this guy won in Philly, couldn't get over the top part, though. But at the top of his game, Hall of Fame career is cemented. They're at this point now, if this offense comes – and, again, here come the overreactions, right? It's like, well, oh, my goodness. Now, it's one game, and you got a defense there where it's a new coordinator. They got some new things going on themselves in Baltimore there. So, okay, it was a good game, but let's be honest here. Forget about the being out of bounds by a toenail or whatever it was. You missed you missed a field goal for a pretty reliable kicker. You turned the ball over on your own 10-yard line. That could have, I was doing my little midday Monday. I'm like, that could have been a Ravens win. Forget about, here comes the flags for roughing the passer and whatever kind of nonsense. The refs are in. You hit the field goal. You don't turn that ball over inside your red zone. You have a win under your hands. It's in your hands it's there for the taking. Right? And you can't handicap turnovers. They're part of the game. But listen, I think the Ravens, good team. You can't make mistakes. You run out of time at the end of the game. It happens. But if these two guys, and I'm talking Worthy and Rice for Kansas City, if that's what we're going to get, boy, watch out. It's because the defense. They've been the defensive team since Tyreek Hill. They've been the defense. Even when he was there, as exciting as he was, the defense was still pretty solid. It was still pretty solid defense. And you saw last year's team was all defense. Now you got these guys in here. Holy cow.
Right. It's scary, definitely, for the rest of the NFL and the AFC conference as well.
And you'd even mention Schuster and McCole Hardman.
Right. So, all of a sudden, the Chiefs are again stacked again at the wide receiver position.
Crazy.
And I know that first touchdown, what was the stat I was reading? That since they lost Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes only had 3 touchdown passes, and this is over a 3-year period of over 20 yards. So all of a sudden now, that intermediate, middle to deep passing game is also alive for the Chiefs. And again, Sean, it is scary for the rest of the league. A great start in terms of enjoyment, the props last night. And, of course, we've got an international game coming up this evening in Brazil between the Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. The NFC Conference will be taking center stage this evening. Again, should be a fun game. It's close to pick 'em, and it's expected to be high scoring.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that's not one of the games we picked today because it's a live. It's we've got some weekend games here, but it was a 1 up to 2. I don't know. I think Sirianni's on a hot seat here. He brought a new offensive coordinator.
Agreed.
So if it fails, I think you're out the door this time. You got no one else to lay blame to the Philly fans. You're out the door. So you got a lot to prove after last year's. What they go 1-7, whatever down the stretch, bad. And now here comes Green Bay, a quasi flavor of the month this year, flavor of the month, flavor of the year, probably right. A lot of hype on Love, and they're going to build from last year's team. Maybe they should have beat the 49ers in the rain in San Francisco and gone on to a championship game or possibly Super Bowl. I don't know. For me in this one here, I'm leaning Eagles. I think and I was wrong. I had the Ravens last night, and that was the same kind of thing. Got to get that taste out of your mouth. And that was just one game. These guys had half a season of failure but you bring in Barkley, Hurts healthy, another year in the system, growing as a quarterback. I don't jump into rookie quarterbacks so much. There's that adjustment period. Plenty of playmakers for him. To me, it's an Eagles or nothing. It's a pick 'em. I don't know. I think the Eagles got more to prove than the Packers do. Packers were rolling with house money last year. I think they could come in here and take a loss. It won't hurt them too much.
They certainly do got a lot to prove. There's probably a little bit more of a motivational edge for the Eagles as well. If you're looking at the numbers, Sean, Matt LaFleur, as a coach, has been a very good underdog. I've got him 9-2 ATS as underdogs in the first month of the season, and that's in his career on the Green Bay side. Also, Jalen Hurts, a very good home quarterback, not necessarily on the road. Again, these are just the numbers, and from our database, numbers don't lie, that is for sure. But Jalen Hurts at home, 17-9-1 ATS, third best of 99 quarterbacks dating back to the 2000 season. But Jalen Hurts on the road or neutral site games, 10-18-1 ATS. He struggles on the road. It is the worst road ATS percentage of any quarterback since the 2020 season. Again, those are the numbers. Finally, for people who maybe wanting to play the over or the under, let me just say this about the neutral site games. We play a couple of games each year now over there in London town, across the pond in England. Now there's a game in Germany every year as well. We usually have one somewhere
Mexico.
in Central or South America, like you say, Mexico City. Tonight playing for the first time in Brazil as well. In these type of games, I always favor the under. Everything is unfamiliar about a international game. The travel, there might be fatigue, there might be a time jet lag. There are so many intangibles that take a team out of their comfort zone, if you ask me, when it comes to over-unders. Therefore, it's no surprise that in our database, in the last 7 years, neutral site NFL regular season games, 9 overs, 19 unders. Not only that, but all 5 games last year played on neutral sites went under the total. All 5. The 2 in England, the 2 in Germany, and I believe the 1 in Mexico City. Those games only averaged 33.2 points per game. I would lean under for tonight's game based on those numbers. The only thing that's scaring me, Sean, is the fact that I believe this is the first game in opening weekend in which not one but both teams are breaking in a new defensive coordinator. Both teams, Packers and the Eagles. This has generally been a very favorable spot for high-scoring games. I've got first-year defensive coordinators making their debut against the top 10 offense since 2020, have allowed 31.0 points per game. Since they each have a new defensive coordinator, those numbers are indicating the game may be high-scoring. For that reason, I'll pass on the total. The historical numbers favor a low-scoring game. The rookie defensive coordinators favor a high-scoring game. For me, it's a wash.
Yeah, that's why I was like, over for me, but I'm with you. It's a neutral. Yeah. I saw that Green Bay is taking a 2-hour bus ride to get to the stadium out in the sticks, wherever they are. Like, come on. Like, they're used to driving. They're not used to driving 2 hours anywhere. Come on. I mean, like, what do you know what I'm saying? Like, who's used to that on game day? That's, I don't know. To me, again, people want to jump on these totals. I'm sure you could find a better prop to do here, folks, because you bring in the new, it's like college football. You bring in a new regime here to take over one side of the ball. There's going to be growing pains. It's going to happen. You're going to have a misassignment. And these guys got some pretty good skill position players. Somebody's out of place. Somebody could be going to the house for 45 yards in this one. So I kind of
you mentioned prop. You mentioned prop, and there is one that I like since you just mentioned it, and it's the fact that Green Bay, their wide receiver room is absolutely stacked with great young talent. The Packers, and a guy that I like tonight, now that he's at full strength, is a Christian Watson anytime TD. You can currently get that at somewhere around plus 210. So 2-1 odds are higher for Green Bay wide receiver Christian Watson to score a TD this evening. I say that because when the guy is healthy, he is a burner. I've got some people who are actually betting Watson 2 TDs or more this evening. Not me. I'll take the one. But obviously, we know his biggest issue has always been that hamstring. But this is the first game of the season. This is the healthiest he's going to be all season.
Exactly.
So consider a Christian Watson anytime TD at plus 2-1 odds or better.
Yeah, you're not gonna get any argument with me with a 2-1 anytime, especially in any time. I'm not a big first guy. If I'm gonna do TD, and I just feel like, I don't know about you, like, because people come in like, oh, player props for this and that. I feel like if I'm steering onto player props, it's going to take me off of my game side. And then you start thinking like, oh, I need this guy to do this, but no one else to do that. I can't do that. Like, I have to attack the game and the numbers first and then worry about that second. I can't, obviously, like, you got your guy like, Barkley or Brown, or who's the other receiver they got over there?
The Devontae Smith.
Like, you're going to go to all your big name guys and Reed over here for the Packers. But if I'm not going to get like at least a 130 or 150 on those, I'm not going to play. I know they do these boosts like, oh, you bring it down to even money. I don't know. Do people want to come in and listen to an even money podcast? Like, hey, let's go with even. Who wants that? They want 2-1.
Right.
Something outside the box. That's what I think we should. What people want from us to, bring to the show. Let's hit the comments and we'll jump into your game because you'll be doing Jags Miami, and we'll talk about that. But let's just say hello to everybody. Hey, look at this. Who's this handsome man? That was me. All right, Michigan State 9.5. What do you think about this one? College football tomorrow. I saw Michigan. I'm like, oh yeah, Michigan. I thought this was going to be Michigan and Texas. Line goes from 4 to 7.5. No. It's Spartans. I do not like the Spartans one bit.
At least from a statistical point of view, the points would be the play in this one. And there is a similar situation in the NFL when you're getting a touchdown or more and the over-under line is extremely low. Like it is in this particular game. I think they're somewhere around 44.5 to 45 points. The obvious play is to take the underdog. It's all the way up to 9.5. That's big. It might require you to hold your nose, but for me, it would either be a play on the underdog or lay off.
I'm going to say I didn't like Tucker. So, okay, you bring in the Oregon State guy and his quarterback. You put Maryland lost to his brother. Taglia turnover, his brother's gone. They scored 50. I was not expecting 50 against UConn last year because I know some guys that I respect were like, oh, let's take UConn. I mean, they got Moore as a coach, and those guys are kind of – I mean, they might be going to the Big 12 for conference-wise pretty soon, UConn, between their basketball football teams. Right. So you think like, all right, he's building on something. You got 50 points? Yeesh. I'm with you though. I would if I'm going to get about 10 points here with a team that looked ugly in a 16-10 kind of win.
The low over underline, the value is always on the dog.
Yeah, I'm with you there. John put him. Hello guys, Sean and Victor. Let's have a great weekend. We're going to try. I don't know what game you're watching. That pick was his fault for the tip to interception there. Yep. Who's this guy? Is this the guy from Storage Wars? Yeah.
Oh, right. Dave Hester. Right. Storage Wars.
If it's a tip ball, I don't know. KC's going to three-peat. Well, it looks good right now, Goblin. I mean, I don't think we're really going out on a limb here saying that KC looks pretty good. I'm a Raven kind of guy. I thought the Ravens were going to be pretty good, but
just think if they scored 27 in game one. That's a good sign for the Chiefs. This is a team that scored less than 22 points per game on offense last year, 21.8. If they can just improve slightly, 3.5, 4.5 points per game, the sky's the limit with that defense, and that is scary. Three-peat, it would not surprise me.
27 points and 26.17 minutes of holding the ball.
Right.
But again, you get a ball on the 10-yard line, you turn that into 6 or 10 points on the other side of the field, and that's what good teams do. USC money line, baby, good stuff. Yes, you know what, Mar? I did not even mention. I think we went 2-1 last week in the video. You had a over Miami.
Yeah, over Miami, Florida, right?
Over Miami. I had the USC money line, and the third play. Let me run into Mark's game. I got to flip it back. Where is it? That's not it. Where is it? No. Oh my goodness, my little notebook here. All college football. I'm all confused. I can't find it. Remember what Mark's game was last week? South Carolina under? No.
No.
Different game. Nope, that was something else. I don't know where it is. Well, I don't know. I think we went 2-1, I believe, though.
I think so too, yeah.
2-1. We'll take it. And in fact, Eagles have new corners as well, talking about the over in that game. Yeah, and plus new coordinators, man.
Right.
I think the offense always has an edge early in the season anyway. So
right. Although we'll say this, if you think this is going to be a high-scoring week in the NFL, I would think again. For me, there's only 2, maybe 3 games in which I'm actually considering betting the over. It's been a low-scoring week one, particularly since they adjusted the schedule right after the 2020 season. The last 3 years in the NFL. Let me see here. Week 1, last year, 4 overs, 12 unders, only 41 points per game. 2022, week 1 in the NFL, 5 overs, 11 unders, only 42.1 points per game. Finally, in 2021, also in 7-9 over under 46.0 points per game. Week
Look at
one
this
has been
gentleman.
very low scoring in the last 3 years. And there we see our colleague, Marc Lawrence. Marc, can you hear us? How's it going, buddy?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me okay?
We're good. Good to go.
Good.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the delay. We just had to get a few things in order, and I should have programmed my time a little bit better, but nonetheless, I'm glad to be with you.
Marc, Sean was just talking about it. Are you over last night? Are you still steaming a little bit, knowing the Ravens outstatted the Chiefs in that game? I know you had a little coin on Baltimore, and it was there for the taking at the end. How are you feeling day after? Is it a hangover yet?
Probably not as bad as Baltimore feels, but
yeah.
What was really difficult for me, guys, was reading the stats after the game, because it's what I really, really get drawn to. See how they performed on the field. And to see Baltimore win the stats by 99 yards, almost 100 yards, was really, really difficult to not win a football game, or at least cash a ticket. But hey, it all evens out in the end, so I'll forget about it probably when Sunday's games are playing.
Yeah, it was a tough one. We were saying, you turn the ball over inside your own red zone. You go for it. You turn over downs. You can't give that guy a short field. Can't give him a short field.
Right.
Especially if you're going to have the wide receiver is going to break out. You're in trouble.
Yep.
We were just going to move to Mark. Victor was going to just jump into his Jags-Miami game. So Miami, a 3.5-point favorite versus the Jaguars, total of 49. Jaguars were a darling last year, all but a forgotten afterthought now with the hype on the Texans in the South. I'm a guy, I see 3.5s and 7.5s. I go to the favorites. I don't fall for that old okey doke with that half point. I'm like a 2.5, 6.5 guy. I'm like, dog me up. So I'm total opposite of what you should be doing. Listen, I doubled down on hard 12s on a blackjack table. I got it. I got problems. I'm that guy at the table. You're like, who's this wacko down at the at the last scene to shoot? That's me. That's me doubling down on the 12 versus 6. But I kind of like Miami here, but this is, again, I gave you this one because you're a Florida guy.
Sure. And it's it's nice.
And you're right on you're right on the ball last time too with the Miami and the Gators. So
our Hurricanes, a big win over the Gators last week. It's great down here. The atmosphere, the vibe in South Florida. The Dolphins, of course, are hosting the Jaguars here in week one. Big game for the Dolphins coming up on Thursday as well. That puts a lot of pressure on this game. They're hosting Buffalo in a division game on Thursday. It's one of the reasons that they may sit Jalen Ramsey out of this particular game. He's still not over that hamstring. They've been hoping over the last 7 to 10 days, and they just actually re-signed him this morning, making him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, Jalen Ramsey. But with that said, there's probably a good chance he does not play in week one, saving him for that big Thursday division game. And does that have an impact on the total and the Dolphins defense? Obviously it does. But first, let me backtrack. Let me take a look at the Miami-Jacksonville series. It's been low scoring overall from a historical context. 8 out of the last 9 meetings under the total. Each of the last 3 meetings under the total, only 37.0 points per game. Weather report, we're looking pretty good down here. Winds, maybe 10 miles an hour, 8 to 10. 33% chance thunderstorms. It is Florida. There's always going to be about a 33% chance. I don't think rain will have much of an aspect in terms of this particular game. Thanks, my man. Okay, you mentioned the spread. You mentioned the over-under line. So, according to Vegas, the implied score in this game, based on the point spread of the over-under line, is Dolphins 26.5, Jaguars 22.5. And those are interesting numbers when we look at the total, because those are dead numbers. The Dolphins are 26.5, Jaguars 22.5. It's not very often a team scores 26 in the NFL. Much more likely to score 27 or 28, given the fact that a touchdown's worth 6, extra point 1, field goal worth 3. Same with the Jags. Very rare to score 22 points in an NFL game. You're much more likely to score 20 or 21 or 24 or 27 points. But with that said, Jaguars In their first game of the season in each of the last 5 years, 5 overs, 0 unders. Their game ones have gone 54.6 points per game in the last 5 years. Dolphins, not quite as good. They've been a good ATS team in their first game of the season, 9-2 against the spread in game one, but only 1-3 over under last 4 years. With that said, we used the Dolphins Chargers over last year in week one as our over of the week. You remember that particular game, the over underline was somewhere in the area of 51 points. Final score was, I believe, 36-34, a big time West Coast indoor shootout.
Yeah.
And that is why I'm going to be leaning toward that type of game again here as they host the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year, both teams split down the middle from an over-under perspective. Jaguars 8-9 over-under. Dolphins 9-8 over-under. What is leaning me in the direction of a higher scoring game, first off, is a look at the two divisions. We've got an AFC South road team taking on an AFC East home team. And these games have gone 31-11 over-under. That's about 75%, dating all the way back to the 2010 season, when the over-under line is 41 or 0. So with that said, with a really good high-scoring situation when these two divisions take on each other, that is the way we're going to go. We're going to call it a two-star strong opinion, Dolphins, Jaguars over the total. Again, there's a game in the NFL that I do like a little bit better, but for me it's going to be take a look at a shootout or pass in the game.
Official Football Friday pick, Victor King, over 49. And as Victor said, a couple of years, a lot of under. So you see almost a 50 there. They're daring you. They're like, oh, wow, 50 points. No way it's under. We're going to go opposite. Like the opposite thinking there, over 49. Mark, thoughts on over, agreeing? I'm guessing you're going to be full. We got 48.5 here. We found a 48.5 for you, so.
Sean, I couldn't disagree with the over-under guru. I just couldn't do that. In fact, when we do our podcast, when we do it here with me, when I can read Victor's stuff, but when I hear him say it, it really fortifies exactly what it is that he's doing. And I'm all in. I'm the only.
There we go. Victor, over 48.5. It is a 48.5 for show purposes. If you got your pen out and write these down, find Victor's premium stuff, gamblersworld.net, $5.99 early bird special, and also Mr. Marc Lawrence on the site as well. And he's got a little Patriots Bengals. Bengals a big dog here, 8.5. And I just, because I knew we were going to come in with a bunch of numbers on big underdogs like this in NFL action. Bengals 8.5. Actually, I see maybe 8s popping up here. I'm seeing maybe some wide receiver action not playing. Right. A total of 41. Here's another one we're talking about before you came on with a spread, near 9 and a total in a low 40s. I think I kind of know what you're going to do here, but you came in late, so I don't even know what you're going to do. It's not like before we get to load them in the chat. I don't even know we're going to pop up on the banner for you.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play that big ugly dog here in this game.
Yes.
There's always one somewhere, okay? And on the NFL card this week, the Bengals are going to be the number one survivor play in all those survivor pools this week, and it's almost too obvious. And for reasons like that, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole in the survivor pool. Because if you load up on a team like Cincinnati this week, when 80% of the players are going to be on Cincinnati and the Bengals go down, you wipe the whole pool out.
Right.
So you have to let that stuff go, even as attractive as it is. And as ugly as New England looks coming into this football game, the few things that they bring to the table, number one is a defense. And amazingly, you take a look at they had 4 football games last year when they allowed a total of only 46 points, and they didn't win or cover the spread in any one of those football games. That's how poor the offense has been for New England here of late. I do like the fact that Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starting quarterback for this football team. He's a very polished, savvy backup quarterback. He came to Cleveland and did the same thing when Deshaun Watson had to serve his penance early on, and did a real nice, adequate, what you would expect kind of a job. And I think he'll do the same thing here for the new head coach, Gerard Mayo, for this football team, the world is going to be on Cincinnati here. Joe Burrow's back. Rah, yeah. And I do like Joe Burrow being back. In fact, I think Cincinnati has a real good chance to win this division this year. But the fact of the matter is, when you got the whole public dropping everything they have to load up on a team, and it's the biggest favorite on the board this week, I got to look at the ugly dog.
I agree. Victor, I'm sure Victor's going to be on the ugly dog.
Can I add to that, Mark? I do have
Yeah.
something. You don't want to be laying big points in week 1 of the NFL season. You don't want to be doing it. I queried this just before we started our show. Week 1 home favorites of a touchdown or more, 7 or more, 5-16 ATS last 12 years. So, big ugly, clothespin, blindfold, whatever you want to call it. The points are the play. You don't want to be laying a touchdown or more in week 1.
Good stuff. Yes.
The Patriots, I agree with there. Let me ask you this for contest purposes. Are you a guy, because I know when I can jump in, not as much in week 1, but as weeks progress, do you just let the game go that everyone's going to be on? Or do you go opposite, thinking, I'll take a shot, pick up a win one way when everybody's going to take a loss?
Well, I kind of grew up in this business a little bit, guys, when I used to work part-time answering telephones for a bookmaker. It's kind of how I was indoctrinated into this. And, back in the days when they ran what they called the sheets, where everybody could parlay their teams off the sheets, and we call those cookie counts. And invariably, money in the bank, you just fade the most popular play on what we call the sheets or the cookie counts. And, that's the axiom it is for a lot of the experts to do that, to fade the public, because that's what it is. It's public money. It's not anything close to wise guy money. So it depends upon, Sean, where it comes from. What perplexes me is the times when you do find both the sharps and the public on the same game. That's really, really difficult to separate yourself from, and especially when the public loves an underdog. Oh, my God. That's the one underdog I got to leave at home in the kennel and just not even think about.
But Marco, do you think that now, though, especially with sports betting being legal, and there's podcasts and people on TV and everybody and their grandmas are doing this stuff, I feel like NCAA opening round, Sweet 16 playoff, you're going to be on a dog with the public. Does it? I'd like to get that early in that game. I like to know NCAA basketball. I'm betting that game Sunday before they listen to what everybody's got to say on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and bring my +6 down to a +3.
That's a great point you bring up, Sean. You take it to the NCAA tournament, and it's the underdogs that really bark the loudest in those first round games. They're the guys that don't get any respect, and the favorites generally kind of tend to look past them, look further into the tournament. Same thing NFL opening week here, as Victor alluded to, these big favorites and how they just gag. It's no surprise to me at all that they choke early on in the football season.
You asked Sean about from a contest perspective, and you're absolutely right. I'm in multiple Survivor contests, and I didn't use any of the 3 6-point or higher favorites this week because I think all 3 could lose outright, or at least not cover the spread. In terms of an ATS result, Cincinnati against New England, Seattle against Denver, and even the third play, Buffalo is a 6.5-point favorite against Arizona. Right now, I ended up penciling in the New Orleans Saints as my Survivor Week 1 pick. But if I could say one thing about the Arizona-Buffalo game, since we're on the topic, Arizona has been a weird team in that it seems like the farther east they travel, the better their results are. The Arizona Cardinals. Mark mentioned something in our Playbook Yearbook magazine. I decided to touch on that in our database. And in Kyler Murray's career with the Arizona Cardinals, when he plays in the Mountain Time Zone or the Pacific Time Zone, 1824 ATS, under 500, not so good. When he travels east to play in the Central Time Zone or the Eastern Time Zone, the Cardinals are 16-6 ATS. And finally, playing in the Eastern Time Zone specifically, the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, 11-3 ATS.
Oh, nice.
I think Arizona not only covers, but may even beat Buffalo outright in that game.
So it sounds like these 3 games, Victor, that you're saying beware of in a survivor pool.
Yeah.
It sounds to me as if you're not going to be surprised at all if one of these 3 win the game straight up.
Straight up, right?
Yep.
The Arizona numbers just jump at me because how often are they like a sizable dog playing at Dallas, at the Giants or Philly? You know what I'm saying?
At
Like,
Philly, right?
look,
Yeah.
They're probably in a nice underdog role where you're like, oh, West Coast team coming east. It's a 1:00 game, body clock game. Take the favorite. Yeah. And Mark, like you said, the public, this is the way I think with my 2.5s and 6.5s. All I hear in my head is some kind of Buffalo Wild Wings like, oh, he just got won by a touchdown. How easy is that? Carolina stinks. The same. That's all I hear is when I see a 6 out there. It's like, oh, they just got to win by a field goal. Oh, man. So, all right, that's automatic. In my Westgate and Circuit contest, I have all dogs. 10 different dogs I picked. Not even the same ones in each. 10 dogs this weekend in NFL action.
The dog aspect does not surprise me. Again, it would not surprise me if this was a week for underdogs and unders.
NFL for me is I'm either going to come out 7-3 out of the gate like a cannon, boom, or it's going to be a 2-8, and I'm like, well, back to the well next week with my dogs and see how I go. That's the way it is with the dogs.
Sean, what do you do? I'm like you. I have entries in both the Circa and the Superbook contest as well. Now, and you mentioned all these dogs. Are you going to play the same 5 dogs on each ticket, or are you spreading them out?
They're 5 different dogs. They're 10 different teams.
So you're going to spread them out. Okay.
Yes. They're not
10 different underdogs in 2 different contests. That's amazing.
Where is it?
Nice.
I have it in one of my notebooks.
If you're looking for a good dog, week 1 has been a very good week for division home underdogs. There's only one going this weekend. That would be the Indianapolis Colts. But division home underdogs in the first week of the season, 24-7 ATS, 10-1 ATS specifically in the AFC. Look at there it is. Look at nice.
Westgate, Carolina, Tennessee, Colts, Denver Jets, Circa, Jags, Pitt, Patriots, Arizona, and what's the last one? Rams.
There you go. All
I look at it this way.
way.
One of them, I go 5-0 in one, 0-5 in the other. If I go 0-5 in Circa, I could go right for the booby prize. I'm like, you know what? My thinking is after an 0-5, I am just going to try to tank that one and get paid at the bottom 2 in that one.
It's just as hard to tank it as it is to win, though, Sean.
Oh, my kid. They're both going to go 2-3, and I'll be like, well, you know what? I need a 4-1 because in these things, I just look at 3. If I go 3-2, because these are games I like anyway. If I go 3-2 over 100 games at 60%, I'm going to make money. Maybe not in the contest world, but in the real world, I'll have money in my pocket going 60%. So.
I love your approach. Dog it up this opening week in the National Football League.
We're going to hit a couple comments, and then I'm going to go to my game, and we'll talk about some other stuff here. Kentucky, South Carolina late. I like the 10 here. They were a 20-point favorite last week and barely beat Old Dominion. And they were, I think, +3 or 4 in turnovers as well. So I think the look for me would be take the points with South Carolina because as bad as they looked, Kentucky, no thank you. Give me the 10 points.
It's also another game in which the over-under line is extremely low. It's only 42. That's a low number for college football. We know this now in college football and pro football. If you can get a touchdown or more with a low over-under line, the dog is almost always the play.
A&M? I don't know who A&M's got. This is what we're putting out here, or just strictly just A&M? So I have to go hunt down who A&M is playing off the top of my head? All these games? Are they even playing this week? Who do they have?
I think.
Are we just going to talk? Maybe he just talked about A&M last week blowing a game, possibly.
I think A&M has an FCS opponent, I believe, this week. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know they didn't catch my fancies, which means they maybe aren't on the big board this week.
Locking in with the Kings coming in saying hello. Mar, 49ers -4. Jets right and left tackle Smith Taylor versus Bosa and Floyd. Hassan Riddick still holding out. Non-mobile quarterback Aaron Rodgers. 49ers wide receivers way better. Thoughts on laying? Well, you got a good number there for it because it opened at 6.5, and you have a quarterback and Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in over a year. I get the thought process on the Niners. I get it. Niners are supposed to be the best team Me, you just saw my pick in the contest. I'm going Jets. Mark?
In our newsletter this week, we did a feature column. I call it a Bet You Didn't Know column. It's sort of an instructional handicapping article each week, just to kind of bring some light, different perspective into the people's eyes, the customer's eyes. And our article this week pertains largely to this game. It's called Heartache Tonight. And I basically theme all these articles after songs because I'm a huge.
I was going to say, that's an Eagles song there.
There you go. Right. So this is Heartache Tonight. It's Monday night. What else could it be? Monday night heartache. Well, what the theory or the thought in this game is that surprisingly, if you look at all Monday night favorites in the first game of the season, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. 19-41 to the spread since 1980. And you want to keep digging deeper, you can really, really tear that thing apart. So what does it tell us? A Monday night favorite, week one? It tells me that the public is just jonesing, waiting to get down in that Monday night play because two reasons. Number one, they've been waiting all off season. Number two, it's Monday bailout time. They're generally not going to bail out on a Monday night dog the first week of the football season. So again, fading the public's thoughts here, fade that favorite on Monday night.
Right. In fact, smaller dogs of less than 6, 14-2 ATS as well. The numbers even improve with the smaller dogs like the Jets are in that game. Again, it's the points, grabbing them or laying off.
Marv brought up that Niners are 6-3 versus the Green Bay Packers. One more comment, then I'm going to get to my game, the Commies and the Bucks. But Goblin, how do you feel about the Steelers quarterback situation? Wilson or Fields? I feel Wilson's cooked. Wilson threw for 26 touchdown passes and has thrown for 26 passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 years. I don't know if the guy's cooked, folks. I mean, he had 26 touchdown passes last year for a crappy Denver team. He's the guy who's going to play on the road for Mike Tomlin. Tomlin's a veteran guy. He's going to go with a veteran quarterback. It's just that simple. Give me the Steelers in week one. Money line now, guys.
Well, I'm not far away from you there, Sean. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and all they want to talk about is Wilson. They want to talk about Fields and which ones should be the quarterback, who should be on the field. And the fact of the matter is since Ben Roethlisberger retired, they haven't had anything at the quarterback position in Pittsburgh. But Mike Tomlin still hasn't had a losing season since Roethlisberger.
Right, unbelievable. So
it's all about the coach, and it's basically all about the defense with that football team. And I think that's what cashes the ticket this week as well.
I'm gonna say I don't know if Victor wants to add to that, but this is a guy who wins with those quarterbacks. Tony Romo, throwing for 4,500 yards a year, goes 8-8 on that team, right? I mean, Cowboys go 8-8 with all their offensive guys, and Mike Tomlin with like Bubby Brister or like Tommy Maddox reincarnated is making playoff games. Kenny Pickett is just give the guy some credit, Steeler fans. I get it. Everybody wants to win the Super Bowl, but man, the grass is not always greener on the other side, folks. All right, the grass is not always greener. Let's get to the Washington Commanders. Are you kidding? You see my Redskin helmet there? My old man was a Redskin fan. I got an official, old school, over the hill gang Redskin helmet. 3.5-point dogs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A total of 42.5. Dan Quinn, Cowboy DC, coming into town. Let's listen, Dan Quinn. As a head coach, I think you're better off as a coordinator. We saw you go to the Super Bowl with Atlanta. Kyle Shanahan does what he does, chokes away big leads. This Redskin team, Washington team, you got Jaden Daniels at the second pick for a reason. You were 4-12 or whatever the heck you were. You got more than just one issue on your team. He might be exciting. I know some people took some most offensive passing yards for a rookie quarterback. They got him over Caleb Williams, which I don't mind. I like Tampa here. Let's just go to the fact that I got Baker, who's just gets things done down here. He's in the same system with Todd Bowles. He's still got Evans and Godwin. He has an offensive system around him that he's been in for 2 years. Oh, by the way, what did they win? 3 straight NFC South championships, right? They won the division 3 straight times, these guys. I know Brady was there for one. I'm just saying this team, the players are still all the same. The defense is still solid. Again, versus a rookie quarterback. I'm siding with Tampa Bay here. Again, it's a 3.5, which gets me licking my chops anyway. A home team that nobody likes. Everybody's counting them out. It's the Falcons to run away with the South. No one's giving Baker a shot. Todd Bowles is thought of as a poor coach. I don't know. And one last thing here. Eric Bieniemy, right, Mr. Casey offensive guru guy, was the OC here last year. Now he's in UCLA. What happened to this guy? I mean, how does that happen? He couldn't get an NFL job, and now he's a OC in college. Crazy. But take the Bucs. That's my official pick here. Bucs -3. But I'm going to go to Victor. You roll this one out. What do you think?
I'll let you take the side. I won't argue against you. That is for sure. I'm glad that I bet the under in this game when the line topped out at 44.0 because it's down to about 42 right now as we speak. It seems like there is some late week steam coming in on this game under the total. We have potential weather issues in Tampa. It could be raining down here in northern Florida on Sunday. That may be one of the reasons we've seen some steam come in on the under. Not to mention Tampa Bay home games last year were amongst the lowest scoring in the entire NFL. I know the Giants were number one at only 32.7. I know Carolina home games were only 33.7. That's combined points per game, I might add. But Tampa home games only averaged 34.7 combined points per game in their home games last year. So I'm on the under.
Well, Victor, it's a good analysis about this football team. You got, ironically, 2 Florida teams opening up first games of the season in September at home, where it's very, very hot and muggy here, Miami and Tampa. Yeah. And it's really, really been beneficial to teams like that. But unfortunately, Miami plays Jacksonville, who's also accustomed to the heat down here. But let me say this, if I may, about this Washington, what you call Redskins, Sean. If you call them Redskins, we're going to call our Cleveland Guardians the Indians.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I always slip. I still call them the San Diego Chargers. So I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm not like Ross. I'm not gonna call them like the Boston Braves or something ridiculous like the whatever Milwaukee Braves. Like I'm not. I don't go back that far. But anything in the 80s and 90s is still fresh in my head.
Well, unfortunately, the Indians had to give up the best mascot in all
Chief Wahoo was fabulous.
All of sports. But that's, I guess, another story for another day. What I wanted to tell you about Washington here, though, is we put this in the newsletter, and it's pretty interesting. Last year, Washington led the National Football League in giveaways, turnaways, net turnovers, okay? They were dead last in the league. And you go back and you look at the previous 10 years of the team that finished dead last in the National Football League in turnovers. The year they had the bad turnover year, they were 54 and 117. That was their record. The next year, returning to the norm, it's that whole return to the norm theory here. The next year, they went 177 and 112. Dramatic improvement from these football teams from one year to the next. And now you've got Dan Quinn coming in here. And the third factor is you don't have the turnover machine, Sam Howell, behind center at Washington anymore. Howell was one of only, I think, 8 quarterbacks that started every game last year in the NFL, and he did it for Washington, no less. But I think they got a whole fresh new start here with Jaden Daniels here. And I like Dan Quinn. I like the fact that Washington is going to be an improved team. And why not start here with Tampa?
I want to say, so Victor's bringing up the scoring prowess of Carolina and the Giants and the early bird special. The 5-9. The quarterback play is just atrocious in this league. For as much as they want, you breathe on the quarterback, you get 15 yards. Indiscriminate, getting tangled up with a wide receiver with a ball 30 yards over his head, pass interference, spot foul. These quarterbacks, they don't have a snowball's chance in hell to survive. Like Sam Howell, what happens? You got a rookie quarterback. He's not even a rookie because when he was a rookie, Ron Rivera didn't even play him. A guy who was thought of coming out of or going into that season as the number 1 draft pick, right, for North Carolina. He was supposed to be the cat's meow, as my mom says about it.
He didn't even acknowledge him as being on the roster. I mean, that's how.
Right. And then what happens? Eric Bieniemy comes in here and he's like, do I still got Patrick Mahomes here? Just go ahead out there, kid. Just throw it all over the place. How are you going to succeed? And now after a wasted time in Washington, here he is sitting over here backing up Geno Smith. Like, I feel the quarterbacks do not get a fair shake. Like, we'll see how Jaden Daniels does, right? I mean, you're coming into, again, a team that was 4-13, and then you trade your, best wide receiver to the Eagles? Didn't they trade the wide receiver to the Eagles?
Jahan Dotson, yeah.
Right. I mean, like, how's that helping? Again, this goes back to my pick on Tampa here, I got Evans, who could be a borderline Hall of Famer. I got Godwin, who's a professional kind of guy who catches pass. Like, what are you putting in place for a young guy to succeed? At least, as much as I don't like Caleb Williams, at least you got some veteran guys around him to help a little bit. But again, you saw that happens. Is he going to turn into Justin Fields? Is he Josh Rosen? Is he whoever? Is Mac Jones? I think the teams and the fans let your guy. How's Jordan Love doing? He sat for a year or two. I think he looked pretty good learning the system. Folks, it's okay. I think a fan of a team, right? If you're a fan of a team, granted, you got a quote-unquote franchise guy. Do you want him to learn, or you want him to get mauled? And then you're the Bears, going from Fields, who was the savior, to now Caleb Williams is the savior. To I don't know. We'll see who's going to be a freshman next year, who's going to be a savior for some other team. But a couple more comments there. We'll jump into the Texas. Again, 3.5, 4 up to a 7, 7.5. I got to say, at the 7, 7.5, I'd lean to Michigan. But more importantly, I like the under here. And it'll go to new running back, new quarterback, new head coach for Michigan. You saw him pound the ball last game. Do they really want to, again, to attract me with Texas here? Who, again, has a quarterback who's been in the system, put up some numbers? I would say under in that game more than the laying Texas 7. But Victor, your turn.
Although at this point, though, much of the value has been sucked out of it. I believe it opened around 45 and a half. Yeah. And we're somewhere in that area of 42, maybe 42 and a half out there. I don't know what the line is. Yeah, but those are some key numbers, 44, 43 in college football and in the NFL. Again, some of the value has been sucked out of it. But with a line that low, again, you have to consider the 7-point or more underdog with a line that low, 42 and a half in the game. Absolutely. It's how many points does Michigan need to score in the game to cover the point spread and the game to still stay under the total? That is the key in this particular game. Is it 2 touchdowns? Is it 17 points? Either way, this is the third situation now on the podcast where you have a 7-point or more underdog with an extremely low total. If you play the underdog in these situations across the board, you're going to turn a profit.
That's the thing. People look at it as like a one kind of game. You can't pick and choose, right? You can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, you can't pick your friend's nose. You can't just come in and grab one game, it loses, and then you're kicking yourself because you would have went 3-1. Instead, you're 0-1.
I think what you got to watch here, guys, also, this is also in Victor's lane, per se, if you will. I think this is going to be a really good under Michigan team this football season here. A lot of firepower has left the program, starting with the head coach, the quarterback, wide receiver, running back, yada, yada, yada. So there's a little bit of a rebuild here, although it's with Sharon Moore, who, by the way, I don't know if you saw this in the coffee club or not, Victor, but Michigan still has not signed him to a contract.
Right.
Unbelievable. Really? Unbelievable.
He's still an interim head coach?
He's still
in a one-year gig?
He's still an interim head coach. He's not officially signed as the head coach with this program. And I just wonder if that doesn't kind of like they wonder if Harbaugh bails out of that situation and they're going to welcome him back. I don't know what's going on there. But, that's not for me to decide. What I do notice here about the program, though, is with this lack of offense and this defense is always rock solid. Now what you got here is Don Wink Martindale is their defensive coordinator. And this guy is a terrific defensive coordinator. We saw it in the National Football League with the Baltimore Ravens, with the stops with the Giants. He's a terrific defensive coordinator. I'm looking for this football team to let their defense win games for them this year and not so much their offense. Yeah. But I'll share with you, Sean, here, a great stat about defending national champions such as Michigan are this football season here, and it pertains to this particular game. What it is a defending national champion who is at home after having been at home the previous game, just that simple, at home off a previous home game. These teams are 118-12 straight up.
Ugh. 118-12. Is that good?
Well, I think it's worth taking 7 points with. Yes, I do.
Right. Especially when they're getting 7 or more. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Can I address John's question? He asked about the over/under in the New Orleans Carolina game.
Let's go.
I believe it's the most recent question there. Here's what I do have in regards to the game, John. Where's the number at? Are we at 40.5 yet? Are we at 41.5? Let me see here. Saints, there it is. 41.5. If you're going to play it under now. 41 was the NFL's key number last year. More games finished on 41 in the NFL than any other number. If you're going to play it under 41.5 or higher, what do I got here? Division home favorites of 2 or more in week 1, a perfect 0-8 to the under in the last 3 years. Play Saints, Carolina under, play Chargers and Raiders under. Can I conclude with this one here, guys? It's been a very low-scoring week 1 in the NFL, particularly in the last 3 years. The numbers are there. We mentioned it in the headline of our totals tip sheet. 9-23 last 2 years, NFL week 1 games. With that said, if you're looking for an over this week, here's an interesting tidbit. I'm not going to try and figure out why it is what it is. But in NFL week 1 games with the highest over-under line have gone a perfect 5-0 to the over in each of the last 5 years. So that tells me even in a low-scoring week 1, that really, really high over-under line is A, justified, and B, you're going to probably cash it over with that. Last year, the highest over-under line in week 1 was 50.5, Miami versus the Chargers. They scored 70. 2 years ago, it was 54 in the Chiefs-Cardinals game. They scored 65. 3 years ago, it was 54.5 in the Cincinnati game. They scored 62. This week's NFL Week 1 game with the highest over-under line is, drum roll please, the Sunday Nighter. It's up to 52. There's late steam coming in on the game. Between you and me, it's my highest rated over of the week, and it's the Lions-Rams over the total. Again, each of the last 5 years, the week 1 game with the highest over-under line have gone over the total, an average of 65.6 points per game in the last 3 years.
Hey, Victor, real quickly here, before we turn it back over to Sean, you mentioned 41 being a big number in totals in the National Football League. I can go back to the early 2000s, and that was the key total in the National Football League was 41 for overs and unders. Then it ran away. Scoring picked up and so forth. Now it's cyclical. It seems like it's come back here. So Absolutely. It's basically saying, eventually it comes back to the norm or it gets back to there. Are you surprised that 41 is now the key number?
No. Last year it was 41. In the last 3 years, the top 5 numbers are 37, 40, 41, 44, and 51. In the last 3-year period, those numbers come up more than any other number. It makes sense in the area of 37 or 30 or 41 when you think of the NFL's most obvious score as a team winning 20-17. That's 37 points. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised that the numbers are as low as they are. But you're right, Mark. What goes around comes around in terms of totals.
Sean, if I may, and I don't want to hog all that's a space here, but 41 is a magic number to me too, and I'll tell you real quickly why. 2005 Stardust Contest Championship Finals. It's myself and Fezzik against each other, and you have to know who you're going up against. And you have to handicap the handicapper. And Fezzik was all about numbers, all about key numbers. You had to put 7 plays in, and figuring out if I can box him out and know what he's going to use, we can come down to maybe a nitty-gritty of picking maybe 3 games, and whoever wins those wins. Well, 41 was a total on the Pittsburgh Steelers football game, and I knew sure as hell he would be on that total 41 because it was a key number. I used it. He used it. We pushed out on it, and I ended up winning the contest by half a game over Fezzik because of the 41 total on the Pittsburgh game.
Good job.
Yep.
I met him in Vegas. I talked to him briefly, and next time I go out, I want to talk to him again. I just, and I don't like talking about people when I'm not around, but when he put out that Purdue money line bet.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, And I get it. Like I understand. Like, well, if you think a team should be favored by more than what is on the money line, I can't do that. Like, come on. And then you tell people that laying 115. That was a
college basketball tournament game, right?
But then he says if you're laying 115 or 120, you're a fool if you can't lay 105, 110. But let's be honest. The going price at a lot of these sportsbooks now, they're 115s and 120s. It used to be -3. Used to be you could lay a money line at 125. That's not the case anymore. Now they're 155s. I mean,
what was the price in the Purdue game, Sean?
It was like -4,600.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah. They were easily a 20-point favorite or more. Right?
Yeah, and they lost outright.
Yeah, they lost outright. Right.
Oh my God.
Like,
oh my God.
And I listen, when I met him, he was friendly, and I didn't bring that up or anything, but it was just like one of those things. Like, how can you do that and then say that laying 115 is bad?
Well, because he's all about value, and value is good only logically, though, not when you're laying 4,600, because the price should be 3,500. I mean,
it's so crazy. Oh man! All right. Before I get to the last comment here on Clemson laying 17 to Appalachian State, I think I don't want to say the game has passed by Dabo, but like if you're not, I get. He's anti-portal, but can you get at least a wide receiver? You haven't had a good NFL wide receiver on your roster in years. Can you go out and get a guy or two? It won't. It's not bad. We talk about value here. It's not. You're not the Hurricanes paying $5 million for your quarterback. You can go pay 2.5 for a good NFL wide receiver and get a little explosiveness in your offense. I don't like him laying 7. I don't want anything to do with Clemson this year. No, thank you.
Well, Appalachian State is such a terrific team to the spread, especially on the road. That's where they win all their money. At home, they're just 50%.
Because they're catching huge numbers on the road.
Yeah, exactly, and which is what they're doing here. I wouldn't be at all surprised, guys, if Dabo Swinney doesn't pull a Nick Saban and retire and walk away from the game, largely because he detests the NIL, the transfer portals, and everything else. And I think rather than fight it, he'd rather walk away and be a commentator on a national network of some sort.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Like, the Mills are. I get it. I think the kids should get paid. You should. Yeah. Why the heck give them something? I mean, there's not enough money for breakfast. Give the guys a little something. But at the same token, when you have like 27 guys leave the team to go somewhere else, it's like, how do you recruit that?
I had heard a story. Marvin Harrison, Ohio State. He was going to stay, and Ohio State was offering money. They offered him $10 million to stay, just $10 million to stay, and he didn't. He opted for the National Football League instead. That's how sick it's getting in the world of college sports.
See, and let's be honest. We're all sitting here like, oh, take that $10 million. But God forbid something happens. The guy breaks his leg. National championship is great. Guaranteed money in the NFL. And listen, you got no problem with money. Your father was a pretty darn good player himself. But, man, that's $10 million. No thanks. I'll go to Arizona. Oh, man. Oh, speaking of spending $10 million, all you got to do is take $599 of that and jump onto an early bird special with Mark, Victor, myself, anybody here. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's $599. You got $10 million. It's $599. And even if you don't have $10 million, not that we have payment plans, but this comes out to about $30 a week through the Super Bowl, folks.
Sean, you pick up 2 extra wins throughout the course of the season. You paid for it, so
yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, really, it's what. And I say this all the time when I do like the little weekly, daily little videos. It comes down to like 30-something bucks, depending when you get it. But what we charge for a regular 3-pick package or something else, you're still saving money and you're getting everything. You'll get you'll get all the college and whatever. I don't know. What do I know? I'm still learning, right? We got to learn every day. I come on here with these 2 guys and I'm like, I got my pen out. I'm writing down like, oh, okay, that's a nice little. I got to keep track of that. You should too if you're in the chat. Like, why wouldn't you? Jam-packed full of information here. 3 7-30-day packages guaranteed for Mark, Victor, myself, plus the 10 other guys on gamblersWORLD.net. Please at least hit the like button. Support the show. Go buy a package. Get on board. It's NFL Week 1 weekend. I know I'm loaded up with games. I'm sure these 2 gentlemen are up on the site with games, not just college, but NFL. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night. We've got you covered. So I think that'll about wrap it up here, gentlemen. It's been an hour. It's crazy.
Fast hour. fast.
You know what it is? I think next week, and usually we'll talk about that. You say this like after we're talking. I think next week, I think we just do our picks right away and then get to the comments, because the comments is where we jump into every single game and we get a lot more information. And that's where
I like that idea, Sean.
Right? I think we just knock them out first, as opposed, because I was like jumping back and forth between comments and getting going. I said, you know what? No. So I'm going to put out there now.
Sean, and as we go to sign off, you mentioned an hour. To me, that was the fastest hour I've ever spent, because it wasn't an hour for me.
That wasn't, Mark.
Yeah, but you know what? It's an hour 5, so it's really only it's 50 minutes for you. You haven't been out. You know, you came in 15 minutes.
True.
We knew you were coming a little after the fact. It was all right. But I think I think going forward, and for everybody here, that's what we're going to do. We'll knock them out in the first 15 minutes, our games, and then it'll be nonstop, just talk about everything else. So
I love it.
That's how we'll run forward for football season. That's how we do it here at gamblersWORLD.net. Hit the like button, you degenerates. It costs you nothing, you fools. I mean, seriously, the damn like button. We'll see you all next week. Monday, Doug Upstone, Chip Chirimbus, and myself to start the week. People want baseball. All right, we'll give you baseball on Mondays, folks. And, you drum roll. Monday nights, we're going to be doing a live show for Monday Night Football. Nice. I don't think it'll be like a free-for-all. Like, I'll be here live, but the link will go out. If you guys want to pop in, say hello, whatever, just come in, say we can talk about games during the week, whatever. You can come in for 5 minutes. You don't have to come at all. I'm just letting you guys know, and the chat know, that the live show is on a Monday night. I think 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be an hour before the game. It won't be during it, so we're not live betting crap, because we just want to relax a little bit every once in a while in our lives. But there'll be a live show. We can talk about stuff ahead of time. You're more than welcome to come in, and the chat better be here, because I got nobody to talk to if you guys don't show up. So there's that. Have a good weekend, everybody. For Victor, Mark, and myself, gamblersWORLD.net and Winner Circle Podcast, see you on Monday. Good luck.